Hey everyone, welcome back. As promised, today we're going to be talking about the open side of the embrace for the follower and the leader, because there are a lot of things, subtle things that happen in the embrace that you might not be aware of, and hopefully this tutorial will give you some insight as to how to make this side of the embrace work a little bit better. So when we're talking about issues on the open side of the embrace, most of the time they happen in open embrace versus close embrace. When you're in close embrace, this open side of the embrace doesn't really do much anymore because most of the communication happens through the front of the torso and the close side. So this stays pretty quiet. But in open side of the embrace, we're actually using this to communicate. As I said before, a couple of things can mess up the communication through here. One of which is a constant pressure towards your partner, whether as a leader or as a follower, where you get into a habit of constantly pressing into this point. So over time, when you're dancing, that little bit of pressure can create a lot of tension in the upper part of the arm. So if you feel fatigued at the top part of the arm at the end of the song, that's because of that little bit of pressure. Now, the other issue with followers sometimes that happens is the letting go of the elbow. So if I'm leading my partner to go to the side and they let go of the elbow before going, that's the other extreme that can happen, where the leader is trying to communicate through that pull force, but because there's no resistance, it kind of falls flat and the follower doesn't go. So we're going to talk about how to make sure that you have the right tone for the embrace so that you can communicate really clearly. Now, the first thing that I say when you take the embrace is that you want to make sure that you are holding up the weight of your arm, which sounds kind of basic, but sometimes we get in a habit of actually dropping the arm over time, and this especially happens with followers who begin to sort of hang on this connection little by little, and over time it begins to pull down. So the first starting point is I'm holding up the weight of the arm myself, right? And then when we come into this connection, what we want to first establish is a 0 point, kind of a home base, what I call. So there's nothing going on. We're just holding up the weight of the arm and we're connecting with the partner. In terms of holding the hands together, I call this the little embrace. We have the big embrace, and this is the little embrace. And inside this little embrace, I say, in the middle, you have a little hamster. So you don't want to squeeze the hamster to death. You don't want to lose the hamster either. So you're holding your hands together very gently and lightly. You want to hold the whole hand, but it's not something that you have to force. So that's our starting point. From here, we should be able to initiate into compression. So if I press into this connection, she's going to respond. And if I pull, she's going to respond as well. That's kind of the goal. Now, for leading and for following, what you want to do when you're thinking about connecting with your partner is that you're connecting through this, through the palm of your hand. But at the same time, in the back, your shoulder blade should be drawing back towards your spine. So most of the time, if you look at my left shoulder blade, what happens is when the connection on the open side happens, the leader a lot of times will go in to the connection and the shoulder will protrude away from the spine. And so if you ever are dancing and you notice that your follower's elbow is way back here, so this is something that happens, is on this side I'm keeping my follower close to me, but on this side I'm pushing, and you see her elbows behind her, this is a very big telltale sign that there's a pushing going on here. So all I got to do to correct this is I'm thinking about my left shoulder blade pulling back in towards the spine. And when I dance, I think about that all the time. No matter where I'm going around my partner, I'm consistently thinking that the shoulder blade is pulling back. The same you can do for the following. So instead of protruding forward through that shoulder blade, keep the shoulder blade close to the spine, and all you got to do is be prepared to resist. So if I push, she pushes. If I pull, she pulls. But through this little bit of compression and tension forces, I'm keeping the shoulder blade slightly pulled back. Think about that you're always ready to pull back. So when you're taking the connection with your partner here, you're holding the weight of the arm, you're holding the little hamster inside your little embrace, and then right now I'm just thinking, I'm just ready to pull back. Just that thought. I'm not actually pulling back, I'm just ready to pull back. And I keep my left shoulder blade in towards the spine, which fixes my elbow slightly back too, so I'm not going to allow the elbow to go forward. And then when I'm dancing with my partner, and all steps, I'm thinking about that shoulder blade staying close to the spine. So any move I make here, for example, if I'm going to go around her this way, my body's going to go forward, but my shoulder blade is going to pull back. And it helps the follower to stay closer. So when you're dancing as a leader or follower, if both people have this sensation, shoulder blade towards the spine, holding the weight of the arms by yourself, and then having this home base, always returning to a state where there's nothing, no information coming in or out, we're just together, then we can create little bit of forces through the embrace here. I can suggest, and it's actually nice to practice this without the close side of the embrace. You can just connect here and just practicing feeling these subtle forces coming through the side of the embrace. And then as I try to move around her, for example, here, once again, as I want to go around her, I'm going to pull my shoulder blade back towards my spine here instead of keeping it forward, which see here she had to adjust by bringing her elbow back. You see that adjustment right there? And now her elbow is behind her. So if you as a leader want to track whether you are pushing too much into your follower's space, look for their angle of their shoulder to body. So if this happens and they're kind of scrunched this direction, you know that there's too much force going. Okay? So that's going to be the trick. The more you can just think about pulling rather than pushing, like you're on the verge of pulling at any point, the easier it will be for you to communicate. And one of my favorite ways to use this is, for example, when I'm leading any kind of turn, let's say around me this direction, in order to do this turn, I don't even need the close side of the embrace. All I got to do is, the moment that we're here, in order for her to read the fact that I want her to go around me, I begin to pull, and she will feel that and follow that. So it's very easy. It's a lot easier on the body to lead through the pull sensation rather than the push sensation. And the more you practice that skill, and I gotta say, for leaders, it's a little bit counterintuitive at first. It feels like you can't do both, go forward and pull the shoulder blade back. A lot of times it feels really strange. But if both people, both partners do this at the same time, it becomes really easy to communicate, and you get rid of a lot of the tension on that open side of the embrace. So try it out. There was a lot of details there, so let me know if you have any questions or if you need me to clarify any of the finer points. If you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and do that now, and I'll see you next Saturday for another lesson.